Oh,
Katie, yeah.
Hello.
It's my cousin.
Awesome. Hello. Okay, I'm gonna mute you, okay? So there's a little chat so you can chat. I'm just showing Sarah around here. Okay, so we are going to share the screen and then I can go on here. Good to go. All right.
Awesome.
Hello, everybody. Hi, Katie. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm super glad for those of you guys who are joining and anybody who might be watching on the replay. This is a class that I have wanted to do for quite some time, and it just kind of fell into place. So I'm Kelly Karstens, and I have the Faithful Drops group and have been doing some Zoom classes for the summer just to kind of get people to learn more about Young Living and the products. And this class is super special because we are going to be talking about the foundation. And when I set out at the beginning of the summer with my topics, I really wanted to do a class on the foundation. And it just so happens that Sarah in the Des Moines area ended up going on one of the first Africa service trip with Young Living. So we are going to tag team this tonight. We'll let you say hi to her. Hello. And all right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. So we're going to talk a little bit about the foundation to begin with, if you don't know much about it. And then I'm going to let Sarah take the wheel, and we will go ahead and learn more about her trip. I got to see the pictures, and just the pictures, I was just like, oh, was just awesome. So I can't wait to hear her say more about it. So we are going to get rolling. All right. So, and we're going to go just like that. Okay. So Young Living, the foundation. So this used to be known as the D. Gary Young Foundation. Now it is the Young Living Foundation. And I wanted to start by talking a little bit about the mission of Young Living. And if any of you guys have watched any of my classes, you know that I kind of say I did this backwards. I joined Young Living, started using the products, and then I started learning about the company. And I was just blown away at how awesome the company is, their mission, their vision, what they're doing in the world. So I always take an opportunity to let people know about that. So the mission, we honor our stewardship to champion nature's living energy, essential oils, by fostering a community of healing and discovery while inspiring individuals to wellness, purpose, and abundance. And I know most of you, probably like me, we joined for the wellness, but there is just tons of other things Young Living has to offer, including purpose. And so we're going to probably focus a little bit more on purpose tonight with the foundation, but want to make sure you know that those things are all together: wellness, purpose, and abundance. So no matter what your reason is, you can find greater wellness, purpose, and abundance with Young Living. So it's just awesome. So the principles behind the mission statement have always been the top priority for the founder, Gary Young. He won't rest until his unique message and essential oil-infused products have been taken to every home in the world. And this is a picture actually from convention last year, and this was just really the first time I learned about the foundation. I got to hear Nikki Davis talk, and I was just in tears. It was just amazing. I had no idea about the things that we were doing around the world, and this just really was impressed upon me that Young Living products are there to we want to get them into every home. And when they say every home, we mean every home. So not just our homes in the suburbs here in Des Moines and Iowa and our cush little places with our running water and everything, but just every home. So we're going to talk a little bit, learn a lot more about that tonight. So Young Living is a purpose-driven company. So at the 2014 Grand Convention, this was the year before I attended. Were you at 2014?
No,
nope, I wasn't either. Me too. One. So Gary said, I never create a product for a profit. I do it for a purpose. So at every level of Young Living, they're committed to making a difference. So we're going to go in depth about that, but just a couple ways about how they do that. They give back on a global scale through the foundation. So it's a tax-exempt organization, and Young Living covers all of the costs of the foundation, which is just awesome. 100% of every dollar that you give goes directly to projects and partnerships all around the world. So that is really rare for a lot of charities. Most of them, you know, they still have to pay for the paper and the salaries and the travel, and that's not so. Young Living pays for all of that. So the vision is to bring pure essential oils to every home in the world, and the foundation helps fulfill this vision throughout developing worlds in several ways. So some of them are donating products to Young Living members that hold fundraisers, events to raise awareness and overseas missions, sponsoring auctions, events, and fundraisers hosted by members, donating to domestic and global organizations, partnering with nonprofit organizations everywhere in the world, from Croatia to Uganda to even here in the United States, and running the foundation's flagship project, which is the Young Living Academy. So, like I said, the Young Living Foundation used to be known as the D. Gary Young Foundation, and actually recently changed its name to the Young Living Foundation. And the reason for that is we wanted to encompass, I lost my notes here. Wanted to encompass the entire Young Living family, because it's not just Gary Young that's out there doing these things, it's the entire Young Living family who is donating and out there making a difference. So when it first started, few would have predicted that the following was possible. We're going to go over more of these here in a minute. So children living in poverty would be able to graduate high school. How awesome is that? Orphans rescued from the streets would go on to strengthen their community in unique ways. The problem of jiggers and malaria in East Africa could be stemmed and help to change a generation. So Young Living Foundation is absolutely changing a generation. I'm excited to hear more about that. A young girl in Cambodia could escape the shadows of modern slavery, regain her confidence in the life she deserves. I just got goosebumps. I'm talking about some of these things. It's so crazy. And an entire village and school that was destroyed in an earthquake could be entirely rebuilt. So this is where it all began. This is the Academy. So while establishing the Young Living Essential Oil Farm in Guayaquil, Ecuador, Gary Young noticed that the poor conditions of the schoolhouse he passed every day, and I've heard him talk about this, and it was just like every time a truck would go by, the dirt was just going all the way into the school, and he could barely see as he was driving by, so just knew that the kids were just breathing that in. And so he figured, I need to do something about this. So there was 42 students in 1st through 6th grade. They were crammed into a tiny room, forced to share limited supplies and sit at broken tables while their volunteer teacher gave lessons on a damaged chalkboard. That's how it was before. So Gary, being the man that he was, didn't want to leave it at that. So he worked with the local community and their leaders to build the beautiful Young Living Academy, which is in Chang'an, I think is how you say that. And they opened the Academy in 2009, which was the start of the Young Living Foundation. So it's only been around since then, so that makes, seven years. So over the years, the foundation has evolved onto the primary avenue through which Young Living Essential Oils demonstrates its commitment to helping families and communities worldwide. So when we talk about getting essential oils into every home, that's not just sharing the oils here, but really blessing the world. So that way we demonstrate our commitment all over. So there's people all over. I actually was doing a little bit of research for this, and there is a website just for the Academy. It's in Spanish, but you can actually switch it to English, and just to see what they feel from Young Living is just, it's just awesome. It's awesome. So, all right, so this is the Young Living Foundation now. So we are going to talk about a little bit more about that. So we kind of talked about the mission. So this is specific mission and vision to the foundation, which is just a little bit different than the Young Living Essential Oils. So the mission of the foundation is committed to empowering individuals to achieve their potential and defy limitations provided by wellness and education opportunities to underserved communities. And the vision. So we envision a world where children are provided with the resources and opportunities necessary to become confident, self-reliant leaders who can take control of their own health, provide for their families, and positively change their community. So since we started in 2009, the foundation has been focused on giving those who receive far too little attention the tools and resources they need to unlock the possibilities. The mission and vision serve as the compass for providing long-term solutions. So as I was doing more research about the foundation, I just kind of thought the old kind of saying was kind of like, give a man a fish and you give him one fish, but teach a man to fish and you can impact the world and teach him, to fish forever. So that's really kind of what the foundation is trying to embody that right there. So like I said before, 100%, different 100. So we currently, this was old, I think it's actually more since then, but the Young Living Foundation currently runs 5 major projects worldwide and also supports 100 projects and partnerships. And that some of those are just in the United States and some of them are worldwide. And like I said, this is the other really, really important 100. This is just so awesome that Young Living Essential Oils covers 100% of all administrative costs that run the foundation. So that means every penny that you give goes straight to these kids and straight to the kids in Africa and everywhere. So this, like I said, is where it all started, the Young Living Academy in Ecuador. So started in 2009. And this is the home of the Sponsor a Child program. So that's one way that you can give. So the Young Living Academy began with 83 students, and they now have over 340 ages, grades K through 12. And I think when it started, it was just to 6th grade. So now they're all the way to 12th grade. So in addition to their education, students are now also able to be involved in music classes, drama and dance clubs, soccer, baseball, and volleyball, and computer and English classes. Students are taught farming education and experience the seed-to-seal process firsthand at our Young Living Ecuador farm. So I had to go all the way to Utah to see seed-to-seal in action, and these kids get to learn about it in their education. That's so great. So they had the first graduation in 2016. 100% of the seniors graduated. And in that community, graduation rates are about 20%. So I think about even the United States, here in Des Moines, I'm pretty sure we don't probably even have close to 100 anywhere. So that's, considering all that these kids are going through, that just blows my socks off. So, all right, African Hearts is a rescue program for children living in the slums and streets of Uganda. Either orphaned or abandoned by their parents due to poverty, the children are without food, shelter, and have very little clothing. And look at the smiles on their faces. These kids are still smiling. That just gets to me. So I'm going to not do good at this name here, but this is just Lutaya. Oh, okay. So she is that the guy in the picture?
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Okay, so after watching multiple friends die from horrific conditions, he felt a need to make a change. Lutaya, right? Yep, established African Hearts to bring other children out of the slums in transitional homes where they receive food, shelter, and social services, as well as quality education through the African Hearts Junior School. So they raised funds at the 2015 International Grain Convention, and that was helped purchase land to begin African Hearts' new school building for 200 children ages 3 to 5. So we're really being able to impact these kids at a young age. Also, they were able to double the impact of African Hearts Slum Program, increasing the frequency of the visits from 3 to 5 days a week, as well as providing means for the transitional home project to double the number of occupants from 20 to 40. So, and I think that there's been even more impact since then. That was probably an old statistic. So, all right, so this was just recently. So as you know, the Academy is in Ecuador, and there was just a really bad earthquake in Ecuador within the last, I think it was just this year, in April of this year.
Yeah, I was gonna say about 6 months ago.
Yep, it was a 7.8 magnitude earthquake. So shortly after that, Young Living's director of global philanthropy, I always screw that up, Nikki Davis. If you have the opportunity to listen to Nikki Davis speak, do whatever you can. She is just awesome. I've heard her at convention twice, and then I heard her at Minnesota, and it was awesome. And you really know right then and there, just by hearing her voice, what we're really doing and how true and genuine this really is. So anyway, okay, back to the topic. So we teamed up with staff in the country to coordinate the donations that were given from Young Living Essential Oil members, and they used that to purchase food, water, and supplies. They assembled emergency kits and delivered them to some of the remote areas hit by the devastating earthquake. Some of the places people were still waiting for aid. So donations from the generous members have already done so much, but you can still give So we'll talk a little bit about ways to donate later, but you can actually pick the charity that you want your money to go to. So you can still give to the earthquake relief if you so choose. So I don't even know how you would pick.
I know, a
Which
little bit
one
to each
you
one.
would want to do. Yeah. So, okay. So the Maestro Orphanage in Croatia. So Britta Dimler is one of our local diamonds. And she was able to go to Croatia last year on the diamond trip. So I got to hear her talk about this in person. So it's really cool. So in 2014, the foundation partnered with the Maestro Orphanage in Split, Croatia. So this orphanage has an interesting way that they go about it. They provide support to children and young adults who've been removed from their families due to neglect, abuse, and other issues. And they're currently the only orphanage of its kind in the area. They simulate the model of a family setting. So they have 5 children to 1 staff member in apartment. So they try and just make it feel like a family. So they encourage confidence, success, and personal empowerment by nurturing and caring for the children on an individual level. And I do think that one of the last 2 times I've been at a Young Living event, they were raising more money for the orphanage. So, all right. I have a feeling we're going to hear more about Soul Hope from Sarah, but we'll tell you a little bit about it. So Soul Hope exists to offer hope, healthier lives, and freedom from foot-related diseases through education, employment, and medical relief. By not wearing closed-toed shoes in Uganda, children and adults are susceptible to illness caused by a parasite called jiggers. So that just makes me, that's crazy to think about. All of this is going on because these kids don't have closed-toed shoes. And I probably have 100 pair of closed-toed shoes in my house, and I just can't even imagine what these kids are going through. The jiggers, they enter the body through the feet. They're small parasitic sand fleas. They burrow into bare feet, causing infection, gangrene, paralysis. Occasionally, sometimes these kids need amputation, and sometimes even cause death. Thousands of Ugandan children live without adequate protective footwear and misconception about the cause of jiggers. So Soul Hope employs medical professionals to remove jiggers from those affected. Once treated, they also provide the families with education and durable shoes. So the education, they work to reduce the negative stigma associated with jigger infection and to teach children and caretakers how to remove and prevent such infections in the future. And then Soul Hope also supports local communities by employing local shoemakers and training them in innovative shoemaking techniques for making durable, protective shoes for the community. Another thing they do is ongoing support. So after health assessments and recovery, they return the individual to his or her village with a new bed after having sanitized the whole area. So the foundation traveled to Uganda shortly after Young Living's 2015 International Grain Convention to allocate the funds that were raised at that convention. A portion of these funds were donated to Soul Hope, and with that specific donation, the foundation was able to purchase land to draft Soul Hope, a new outreach home and clinic. Is it done yet?
Not yet.
They're working on it? Okay.
They're still working on that.
Okay. I'm sure we'll learn a little bit. I'm probably jumping the gun a little bit there. But
the land and the building are in process.
Awesome. So it's just awesome to be able to see we give this money and then you can see that it's actually hitting the ground and actually doing things to help those in need. So speaking of Rebuild Nepal, so this became an issue just because Gary actually had somebody contact him, and there was, I think, an earthquake in Nepal. I'm going off my notes here. And a bunch of money had been given. Gary actually said that he went online and donated an anonymous amount of money anonymously to a foundation who was helping Nepal. And somehow he got in contact with somebody came to him and told him that the funds that were actually being donated, they were stuck. They were like held up with political things and banking things and not actually getting to the people who actually needed it. So Gary just took it upon himself that we needed to help Nepal. So, here we go. So there was 2 major earthquakes. They claimed 9,000 lives and destroyed more than 900,000 homes, tragically leaving millions without a roof over their heads. So Gary visited in 2016 and became overwhelmed with the devastation that still existed. So that's where we came up with helping to rebuild Nepal. So the plan was we helped with 112 homes and 2 schools. So Yarza is the town that Young Living is helping with mainly. It's a mountain village. It was completely destroyed by the earthquakes. So we're rebuilding 112 homes there and 2 schools, which includes the first ever high school in the village. So these little kids did not even have a high school. They were walking 2 hours each way. I can't even imagine that. 2 hours each way. So 4 hours just to go to high school every day. Every day. So to help empower the village and strengthen the community, we're also helping to supply jobs to unemployed locals. So like I said, you give a man a fish, one thing, teach a man a fish, it's a completely different dynamic. They've actually set up a brick making plant in the area. So not only will the brick making plant supply jobs to locals, it's also making use of overabundant local resource that they have, which is mud, which is just crazy and awesome at the same time. So they hired local construction workers and engineers and are using local equipment whenever possible. So that's a little bit more about Nepal. And then Healing Faith Uganda. So the big thing about Healing Faith I want you to remember is $5 and 3 children. So through Healing Faith Uganda, a single donation of just $5 provides a mosquito net that can protect up to 3 children from malaria. That's just crazy, thinking about the things we spend $5 on here so freely. With funds raised in the 2015 convention, they were able to purchase over 4,000 mosquito nets. So you take that times 3 for 3 children. So that's 12,000 kids that were affected and helped preventing malaria. That's just crazy. So the foundation and several members actually went to Uganda to deliver this, and they were able to hang a net on every bed throughout the village of Wasiki. Did I say that right? Do you know? Wasaki, maybe?
Yeah, looks pretty close.
Something like that. In 2016, the foundation helped Healing Faith increase its impact by 1,000%. 1,000%. So they went from hanging 400 nets in a month to more than 4,000, thanks to the contributions of Young Living members. So Healing Faith provides malaria education, prevention, and treatment to rural villages throughout Africa, where a child dies every 60 seconds from malaria. It's just crazy and awesome at the same time with the impact that we can have just by those $5. So we're going to talk about this twice because it's so important, but how can you get involved? So number 1, round up on all your orders. You can actually do this in the virtual office. You can make it so every time you put in an order, even your essential rewards, it'll automatically round it up. You can also go to the Young Living Foundation website and set up a monthly donation. You can do this straight out of your commission check if you're lucky to receive one. You can give via credit card, cash, or check. And like I said, you can sponsor a child. That would be at the Young Living Academy for just $75 a month. You can. And I believe that $75 goes to their education. They also even, I think, provide some, maybe I might be misspeaking about this, but I think they provide some meals or food that goes home with the kids as well. I might be misspeaking about that. But anyway,
I think there's other
things that happen with the $75. So I'll let Sarah talk a little bit about this. You can host a Soul Hope cutting party. So you can actually make some of the shoes that are given to help the spread of jiggers or prevent spread of jiggers. You can host a fundraiser, join a service trip, which Sarah got to do, which is just great, and we're going to hear more about that. And the last thing is Amazon Smile. So I know that a lot of you guys are probably using Amazon Prime, which is just an awesome thing that's available. And lots of people don't know that you can actually choose a charity every time that you purchase from Amazon. So if you just go to amazonsmile.com and you just pick your charity, whether it's the Young Living Foundation or anything else, please just pick one because this is money that we're leaving on the table you're spending, and Amazon would love to give your money to a charity. So from that point, yeah, it doesn't cost you anything. Stuff you're already buying, and Amazon just donates that for you. So pick a charity. If you don't know which one you want to use, hint, hint, use the Young Living Foundation. But then every time from then that time on, every time you shop, you just go to Amazon Smile and you start your shopping from there. So this is just a little quote, which this just blows my mind. So if every member, check the box, there's a box in virtual office to round up your order. If every member did this, the foundation would generate over $500,000 a month, which would go directly to the foundation, projects, and partnerships. So like I said, none of that's going to administrative costs. Everything is going straight to helping these kids and just the communities that need it. So Think about that. Every 2 months, that would be $1 million. So $6 million
A year.
a year just by rounding up. So, and I think I heard that most of the time, I think the average was like 37 cents or something that it would take to round up. So I'm never going to miss 37 cents, but it could just do amazing things. The foundation can put that to work. So I'm going to turn it over to Sarah. I'm going to let you say hi to her real quick here. Oh, I went too far. And all right, so Katie, you're going to be on here for a quick second. I'm going to let Sarah introduce herself, and then she's going to take the wheel from here on out.
All right, so my name is Sarah LeClaire, and I've been with Young Living for a little over 2 years, and I recently went to Uganda, which is on the east side of Africa. Can they see this map?
Mm-hmm.
So the map that you've got up here of Africa is on the east side. Over there, it's kind of the light peach color is Kenya, and right next to Kenya is Uganda inland. So they are right next to each other. And that lake right there where it says Rwanda, that's Lake Victoria. And it's the second largest lake in the world next to Lake Superior. So very large lake. So they have that water access, which is a huge part of the income in Uganda. But I just kind of wanted to give you an idea of what part of the country I was in. So on the east side, so we're considered East Africa is where we were. I was there in July for 10 days, and it was just a huge blessing to be a part of that and a part of the foundation and what they're doing there and to see what all they do. So I'm just gonna get started, and we'll go through these slides, and I have a couple of things I want to show you as well. So
all right, we're gonna turn the video off so you guys can see all the pictures. So there we go.
All right. So that is Africa. All right. There we go. Okay. So you heard Kelly talk about Lutaya, who was the founder of African Hearts. So this is a picture of myself with Lutaya. He just has this huge heart and is now a friend and Facebook buddy. So I can support him that way. Just having met somebody like that really is inspiring to do something greater than just living life on accident, or you really think about living your life on purpose. So he really has a purpose, and I think that's part of the reason why Young Living Foundation has partnered up with his organization. He's really giving back and changing lives in the community there. So I was really honored to be able to meet him and work with him and see all the things that they're doing with that organization, which is African Hearts. And we'll move on to the next slide. And this is George. And George is also with African Hearts. He's kind of the, vice president or he's kind of Lutaya's right-hand man. And these guys are both just men of God, and their hearts are just huge. And it was just such a blessing to work with both of them. And this is Lutaya again with some of the kids in the slums. I have to give credit to this picture to the YL Media team that we had with us. We were not allowed to take anything into the slums with us. These people who live there are literally, fighting for their life. So anything they can get their hands on to make money, they really are literally struggling for their lives. So we had the media team, which I'm so thankful for. Have to give a shout out to them because they were able to get some really awesome pictures of what it really looks like in the slums. This is in Kampala, which is the capital city of Uganda, and they have about 5 million people who live in Kampala. I couldn't tell you the square mileage or anything on that, but it's a lot of people to be living in a small area. I know New York City, it would be like that, but everything is squished together. They don't go up, they go wide. They don't have very tall buildings. I think maybe 3 or 4 stories is as tall as we saw. But this is a typical house. This is where these kiddos live. So you can see the garbage down in the left-hand corner. That's garbage or possibly even plastic. They will collect plastic and sell plastic. Plastic bottles of all sorts of shapes and sizes is a source of income for them sometimes. And you can see down in the right-hand corner too, there's just things laying around everywhere. So everywhere you walked, it was garbage everywhere. And these little huts or houses that they live in, they might be like 6 by 8. They're very small, very small. And this one has a door, so that's pretty luxury right there, which is sad. This was, again, the WILE Media team took this picture. These are just some boys, they're just hanging out. The kiddo in the back that you can see laying down, basically he has been sniffing glue. They have a glue that they sniff, and it decreases their hunger, their pain, the feeling of cold. And that's one of the things that they can get their hands on. It's, I believe, a combination of paint thinner and jet fuel. It's awful. When we were there, we could definitely smell it. You knew the kids that were using it, they usually had they had a rag or they had a plastic bottle that had that glue in it, and they would be sniffing it even as they were talking to you. They were a little bit glazed over, you could tell. That's just their way of coping there with life. These kids, that what you see on their body, that's all they own. You can see that kiddo in the back, he only has one shoe on. That's probably the only shoe he owns.
And it looks like a quarter of a shoe.
And it's not, it's just, yeah, and it's a part of a shoe. It's not even a whole shoe, it's a shoe that's way too small for him. Yeah, so what they have on is all they own, and maybe that plastic, maybe it's a light jacket or a piece of plastic that they have to lay on. And unfortunately, they get addicted to this glue, and sometimes after they're off of the glue and they seem like they're doing well, they end up going back because it's so addictive. They end up going back to the slums just to have glue. So it is a very addictive substance that the guys at African Hearts and the staff there, the social workers there, they work really, really hard to try and get these kids some help, and get them off that glue is a huge part of their rehabilitation. So African Hearts, what they do now it's 5 days a week because Young Living has stepped in and helped out. They have 5 days a week now instead of 3 that they're going into the slums. They're, trying to encourage and empower these kids to do greater things in life. And they have some of these children that they pull out of the slums into the transition home that Kelly was talking about. They take them to the transition home where they get the help that they need, and they have the opportunity to get an education and be loved by someone. And I'll talk a little bit more about that too. So move on to the next picture. This was in the slums still. You can kind of see the kids will just come and gather around. We did kind of a little clinic for scrapes and scratches and bumps and bruises for these kids. Obviously we are not all medical personnel, so we can only do a little bit like we would do for our kids. If they need a Band-Aid or, if they need a little salve or something like that, we were able to just rub some essential oils on to support their bodies. And some of the kids, it was pretty cool to see they maybe didn't even have anything wrong with them. But they just wanted someone to touch them. They just wanted to feel loved. So several of them they would come up and they would just point at whatever salve we had, and they just wanted that to put on. So it was pretty cool to see that they're really making an impact in touching people's lives, and caring about these kids. They feel like they're cared about. And that's one of the things I think that, helps them grow into be leaders in their communities. This African Hearts is making a huge impact in this community. So you can see there's one kiddo on the very right-hand side laying down there. He's obviously been sniffing glue. One of the biggest signs there is they're just passed out. We also were able to feed these kids a meal. And their meal that they now get 5 days a week instead of 3 is rice and beans. It's pretty much a staple there. So we just scooped out, I think it was around 200 bowls of rice and beans, and these kids all got a meal. So most of them was their only meal that day. And they would wait till the next day to get their next meal of rice and beans.
I'm sure they ate all of it too.
Oh yeah, they were licking their plates clean. If there was any juice left in the beans, they would come back for juice. It was really cool to see, that even just a meal was providing some hope for these kids, And then later that afternoon, this group is called the GEM Foundation. So we went from complete kind of chaos with the slums. There's just a lot going on. Those kids just want to be touched, and they want to be held, they want to hold your hand, and they want to feel loved. And you're a little bit overstimulated with everything that's going on there. And then that afternoon we went to the GEM Foundation. This is Emma, and she was 20 years old when she started this foundation. She's 22. They just had their 2-year anniversary, and it's a special needs orphanage. She has about 24 kids there, and she just feels like every child, God has a purpose for every single child, and she feels that they deserve to be loved as well. And it's just she's done an amazing job at this foundation of just loving every child who is put on this earth. So I just wanted to put a shout out there to her, because she's doing a really amazing job at the ripe old age of 22. So she's her family is also a Young Living family. Her parents are very, very much into Young Living. So
she's come from somewhere else other than there, or was she from Uganda?
No, she's from the United States.
Okay.
And she moved to Uganda when she was 19.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So she's an amazing woman. She knows what purpose God has for her, and this is it. So we spent some time there loving on the kids, feeding the kids, and that was just very peaceful in the middle of this chaotic city. She just has this really peaceful retreat, and it was really beautiful thing to see. So that was our afternoon after the slums. And then in the evening, we went to the baby orphanage, and I know I'm kind of moving quickly, but we'll come back to African Hearts here in just a minute. I just wanted to go through this was all on the first day that we were there. So we were it was a lot. So baby orphanage, these are kids who have been dropped off, found on the street. There was a set of 4-week-old twins that were there that were darling. So they've got little teeny tiny brand new newborns all the way up to the age of 2. And these kiddos are just precious. And we would go every single day. We were in Kampala, and we would just play with the babies. We would give them baths, and the mamas there are just, they're amazing. They're doing a great job. They change their bedding twice a day. The kids don't get changed quite as frequently as I probably would change them, but they're loved well, and they're treated well, and they're fed 3 times a day, and they do a really good job. So we were able to donate a bunch of supplies that we brought with, diapers and wipes and creams and things like that. So they were just so thankful to have our support there. So food. So what do we eat? Well, I get that question a lot. What do we eat? This is pretty typical plate of food. There's chicken on there, and there might be some goat. I can't remember that particular meal, but Chicken, beef, and goat are the main meats that we would have. There's usually a vegetable. There's green beans and carrots there. Avocado is pretty common. Watermelon and pineapple are two of the fruits that you would have all the time. Rice, and those are potatoes that are kind of a yellowish color on the right. And then some sort of a beans that would go over some rice. And then there's like also, this is on the right-hand side is a cabbage type of a slaw. So that was a pretty typical meal. And then there's like a flatbread on there as well.
I can't help thinking about like the meal you have versus like the meal those kids get, and are just so thankful for.
Yeah, they're so
they
thankful
have.
for the rice and beans. We're eating this, and those kids are getting rice and beans, and that's it. But they're so thankful for it. So, all right. So the next day we went back to African Hearts, the transition school. So first we saw where they were in the slums and where they started out at. And so this is Lutaya again. He was gifted a trumpet when he was younger and was able to make some money and kind of get a start with giving back to his community once he got out of the slums. And he started a band. And so that is part of the program that they offer at the transition home, is these kids, if they want to, they are able to join in the music program and learn how to play several of the different instruments, trumpet, trombone, tuba, drums, I think French horn. I can't remember all of the instruments, but they have a band, and the band actually is a source of income for them to help run the transition home. So that you can hire them for an event and they will come and play for you. And cool. It's really, really cool what they've done. And music is a great therapy too, you know. That's something that Lutaya is really passionate about and really brings these kids in to do something different. And several of the kids all of these kids in this band actually were previously kids from the slums and who have moved on now and been, upstanding members of the community. And so several of them actually make their living as musicians. So it's really cool what he's doing here. So they had a performance for us that they were just thankful that we were there, and everywhere we went, we had performances, but this was really a special day. So these are some of the guys, some of our media crew, actually, the two bearded guys in this picture. Those are two of our media crew. They're with the kiddos from the transition home. Some of these kids actually have been here for several years. Then they age out, I believe, at 18. Some of the kids that are there temporarily, and then they are placed actually back in their home. For whatever reason, they maybe had a falling out with their parent, or their parent kicked them out, or I have teenagers of my own, so I can kind of see how that would happen sometimes. But they do try to rehabilitate the kids and the families, and try to get them back as a family unit again. If that is not possible, then they are allowed to stay at the permanent home, which is situated right behind this building. About 100 yards back, there's a permanent home, and the kids can stay in the permanent home until they age out of the program. So these guys are just, three of these kiddos here I think I have a picture of them. I'm going to move forward and see. No, I'm going to go back. Okay, so three of these kiddos, they're kind of in the middle. They were rescued the day before we got there. Okay, so the day we were in the slums, they actually pulled them from the slums and brought them to the transition home. And so we met them that day, which was really cool. They were 10, 12, and 12, I believe, young. They had only been in the slums for about a week, hadn't been yet addicted to the glue. So they try to catch these kids early before they really get into some physical addiction there. So that was really neat to see that 3 kids while we were there had been pulled out of the slums and brought to the transition home. So I think you'll see, if you go to convention next year, I think you'll see a little bit more about those boys. I'm not going to give you too many spoilers, so just keep an eye out for that. And so these were, we did an essential oil class while we were there. Jessica Ginaloni and Susan, oh my gosh, I can't remember her name right off the top of her last name, but this Jessica and Susan, they're in the back row, and they went to the office for African Hearts and taught the staff about how to use essential oils. So they were so excited. They took pages and pages of notes, and we're ready to use the oils. So they're so excited about that, which was really, really awesome. So not only, I love that part of the mission and the vision is getting oils into every single home in the world, but now we're even going to the homeless. So even the homeless are getting some oil usage. So it's really, really cool. So this is inside of the boys' room. It kind of looks like camp to me. Of course, mosquito nets. Right now, while we were there, it was not rainy season, so there were not a lot of bugs. So some kids don't even have their nets up. You can still get malaria from mosquito bites, but it's not nearly as common in the summertime when it's dry. Oh, here's the picture of the 3 boys that were rescued the day that we were in the slums. So these 3 boys right here were lucky enough to become a part of this program. So it was really, really cool to see that. And then later in the afternoon, we went to the school. It's called African Hearts Junior School. And once again, they had another performance for us, put on all their traditional garb, and were dancing like crazy for about 2.5 hours. I couldn't keep up with them if I tried. Oh my gosh, they could shake it like no other. Let me tell you.
A lot of nitro for that.
Oh yeah, lots of Zing and Ningxia and nitro, and a lot of it, like a whole case. They have a lot of energy, so it was really, really cool. They just were so thankful that they had this new school opening, and they just wanted to celebrate. So it was this huge celebration. So here's another picture. YL Media Team took that one. And they had these bells on their legs that would make noise when they would stomp their feet. So it was so much fun. And they just love what they do. So, and that's me with some of the girls. We were just hanging out. I hardly was ever without a kiddo on my lap. They just love people, and they just want to be around people. So, and this was the ribbon cutting ceremony for the new school that Young Living built. So funded. So we had a dedication to God for the building, and that is Lutaya there in the middle, the tall guy, and Nikki Davis on his right, and Jessica on the right of her, and then Brittany Davis, and some of our staff at the actual Young Living Oils corporate. Some of our staff was also there as well. So these guys were just so thankful, and they absolutely adore Young Living and all the support that the members are giving. So just know that this is the building that was the 200 kids, the age 3 to 5. So that's that building. So be proud of where your money is going, because it's really doing some amazing things in Uganda. And this is our group picture of all of us that were traveling as members, and some staff there as well. And I'm there in the front on the bottom left. And oh yes, so this is the squatty potty.
Oh.
So this is a bathroom. As you can see, there's no seat, there's no toilet paper, there's no running water, and it's a hole in the ground pretty much. So I carried around what I called the squatty potty pack, and with some toilet paper, some wipes, some thieves spray, some thieves hand purifier and some Kleenexes. Never went anywhere without that because you never knew what your bathroom situation was going to be. Even like most places you would stop, like if you had to stop at a gas station or whatever, it was a squatty potty.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Unless you were in a really, really nice restaurant, you would have a squatty potty. All right, another meal. Sorry about my dog barking in the background. All right, here's another typical meal. You've got your beans and flatbread and your cabbage slaw. And I think that one was some goat and some fruit and some potatoes. Typical meal there. And back to the baby orphanage. Always had to get our baby love in. It was a cutie pie with some cheeks going on there. And laundry. One day I really felt like I needed to bless the mamas there and just help them out with some hanging of the laundry. So they had 55-gallon garbage pails that were full of wet laundry, and we spent about 2 hours hanging laundry. So I'm very thankful for my washer and dryer, needless to say. So, and there's some of the cutie pies that we saw. They're just darling. This one on the left, her name is Joanna. She's just a peach. Just miss them so much. All right, and then back to the next day, we were back at the school. So there in the back on the right, kind of behind that truck, you can see that is the new school. We are building this wall. Actually, I think that might be George standing on the wall there. We were working on building that wall and helping keep the school safe. So eventually that wall is going to go over and around the other part of the school as well. But for now, the school, 3 or 4 of the buildings are on the left-hand side, and then that new school there on the right. So we spent much of that day working on laying bricks. And this was actually my roommate, Amanda. It was a lot of fun getting to know new people. There's me stacking up some bricks and pushing cement up the hill, several pounds of it. Boy, that was a workout. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it was good. It was a good day. We made a lot of progress on this wall, and they do things the old-fashioned way. You mix your cement with a shovel, and you use regular, what are they, plumb bob, they call that, to make sure things are straight. Mm-hmm. And regular old-fashioned techniques there. So we're doing on time. All right, and there's me and Amanda with some of the kiddos there. And back to the baby orphanage. Can you tell? We totally loved going to the baby orphanage and getting our squishes in. Of course, when you're there and you're kind of missing your own kids too, it's just, you got to love on all the kids that you come in contact with. So there's some more kiddos, some of our team. That's how they get fed. I know it looks kind of, like they can't all be held all the time. There's 48 babies there, and there's probably about 6 mamas, unless they have volunteers. The weekends are very, very short. So we tried to help out as much as we could and give those mamas a break and kind of take over and help out. So this is great. So this is the bus we spent a lot of our time in. It was in Africa. You're on Africa time, and depending on traffic, it may take you an hour to get across a mile, or it may take you 4 hours. You never know. So this was kind of our home away from home while we were there. All right, so Soul Hope. I was really, really looking forward to this organization when I first found out I was going on this trip. Just because I'd heard a lot about it. There's a lot on social media about having shoe cutting parties and what they're doing over there with education and getting jiggers removed and getting shoes on kids' feet. And so I was really excited to be a part of what they do. So it was not disappointing at all. And I know Kelly touched on this organization too, but I'll just start. The first thing we did was we took a tour of Soul Hope's. They call them compounds there. I know it sounds kind of weird, but a compound is just basically a gated, either a business or a home. So this is one of the shoemakers, is provided, when we do a donation with the shoes, the $10, part of that $10 goes to the shoemakers. So it's providing an income for the people of Uganda. So this is the assistant shoemaker, and he's working on putting the midsole on, I believe, in that picture. And I think we will get to, this is the tires that are on the bottom of the shoe. So they're basically, that's exactly what it is. They've taken tires and stripped them down flat and cut the edges off. And this becomes the bottom of the shoe.
How resourceful.
Oh, they're super resourceful. Everywhere we went, they would use every little bit of every resource that they had. They would have a use for it. It was crazy. Be like, I never would have thought to use that for that. But you figure it out when you don't have a lot of resources. So this is Asha Kali, and she's the one who designed the shoe, and is one of the founders, along with her husband Drew, who founded Soul Hope. And this is actually at the Outreach Center, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. And that is Drew and Nikki Davis and Brittany Davis there in that picture. That was the best picture that I could find, and this is from the media team. So you could really see what Drew looks like. So if you ever see him, you're like, oh, hey, I recognize that guy. And this was at the school on our Jigger Clinic day. And this is a pair of the shoes. And I actually bought a pair for myself and brought a little kiddo pair home with me so I could show everybody at home what your shoe cutting party, what the outcome is with those denim that we spend so much time cutting. So this is Jigger Clinic. On the way to Jigger Clinic, they load up all these buckets of shoes and all their supplies. And this is what it looks like when they set up. I'll go back. So you have a foot washing station on the right, which is mostly what we did. And then underneath of the tents were the jigger removal. And then there was also a nurse who treated any really serious conditions with the skin. So we were able to use essential oils while we're there. So we're putting some lavender and some other oils in the water to just help support skin while we're washing their feet and help them, very calming and relaxing.
I was looking at these pictures. It just reminded me about the woman with the alabaster jar washing Jesus' feet.
It was really cool. Just being able to wash their feet was just
to show love that way.
Oh yeah, it's just absolutely. And this is Alicia. She was the gal I was with. I was marking down when she would take a look at the kids' feet. She would say, okay, they don't have jiggers on this foot, but they have one on this one. So I was the recorder of the jiggers, so on their chart. So we spent a little bit of time together, and then this is washing feet. And there's another close-up picture. They're all lined up. We saw about 160 kids that day. So we washed 160 pairs of feet, and these kids all got sweeties, is what they like to call them. They all got suckers. And a lot of the kids they're pre-screened at the schools, because there's probably 400 kids there. Not every child is going to need to be seen. This one's a little graphic, so close your eyes and look away if you need to, but some of the kids don't need to have any removed, but several of them need to be looked at a little bit closer. So we saw about 160 kids that day. That's a jigger being removed with a safety pin. I'll move along because those are kind of nasty, and it is pretty nasty, but most of the time their feet are, since they don't wear shoes, their feet are they're tough. They can handle a lot. They're very calloused. So, and plus when the jiggers burrow in there, a lot of the skin will die around where they're at, because that's what they feed off of. So a lot of the skin is dead. So it really isn't that painful as you would think it would be. These kids are really tough. So they did such a good job. We were able to also use a little peace and calming with the kiddos that were a little more nervous and crying and, yeah.
The original, did we send them the original?
Oh, some of us just had.
Oh, God.
We just had, yes, we brought some of our own oils and we were, everybody was like, who's got what? And so we're just passing our oils around and using them where we needed to. So that was really, really cool thing to be able to do. Just getting their feet checked, and we would carry them to, not me, but the bigger guys. Some of the guys, this is Bart, he's carrying one kid to the next station. We don't want them walking around without their, getting their feet dirty again before they get their feet looked at and taken care of. And then they get their shoes fitted, and they get their education. And so that safety pin that they had used to get their jiggers out of their feet is then pinned to their shirt. And then they take that safety pin, and that's what they use when they learn how to take out their own jiggers. So that's their safety pin to keep. So they don't have a lot of belongings. Some kids don't even have school supplies like a notebook to write in or anything. But they have that safety pin to help take care of their feet. And then they get new shoes once their jiggers are taken care of. So you can see some of the kiddos in the background there with their new shoes already on. And there's a new pair of shoes for one kiddo. And that's another YL Media team picture. And I just want to talk about Yusuf just for a second, because he's the worst case they've ever seen. He is a 45-year-old guy, and he had 2,555 jiggers all over his body. He had been first seen actually last year, 1 year ago, when Young Living first went to Uganda to see about partnering with Soul Hope. They happened to hear about this guy. I'm not sure the connection or the communication or how that happened, but he had been to the hospital, and they basically sent him home and said he was going to die within a week or two, and there wasn't anything that they could do for him. Soul Hope somehow got a hold of him and brought them to the outreach center and spent hours upon hours picking jiggers out of his feet and his hands and his legs. Also using some essential oils to support his skin and his skin's wellness and health. So they basically saved his life. So, and now he had been thrown out of his village because they believed it was a curse, and he is now back in his village. And I was in Team A. Team B actually got to see him, and so that was really, really cool. So this is a picture of Yusuf when Team B got to see him. So he is all healthy, and he's been back in his village now, and is sharing with his village members that it's not a curse. It's something that can be treated. And so he's now an educator in his own village, helping save lives and make a difference in his community. So it was a really cool story to see. I wish we would have got to meet him and see him. His village is about 4 hours from where we were in Jinja. So in Africa time, it could be like, it could take all day to go get Yusuf from his village. So that was really neat to see that Team B actually got to meet him and see for themselves what an amazing job Soul Hope has done in rehabilitating him back into his community. So Nikki Davis, you've heard us talk a little bit about her. This is her. She like lives for this. It's just, she's amazing. And you can just see like these kids just light up her life, and she just loves it and digs it. And she's a pretty amazing lady. Super blessed to call her a friend now. So
for those of you guys who don't know, Nikki was a lawyer working for nonprofit organizations, and she was friends with Jared Turner, who is our COO.
Yes.
Something like that. Yes. Anyway, and Jared was like, you gotta come learn about Young Living. And she met Gary and just learned about it, and just, this is her world now. And she just, like I
Yeah.
said, if you ever get the chance to hear her speak, your world will be changed just
Yeah,
listening to her and the stories she has and the hurt that she has to help these people. So
yeah, I was like Kelly, when I first heard her speak at convention last year, I was like, tears, you know, she's changing the world.
She's helping us change the world.
And she's helping everyone else change the world, and she's bringing everybody along with her. So she's, you know, they're bringing members in, and in the last couple years, I think she has really done an amazing job with the Young Living Foundation and really getting the word out about how people can help and how you can be a part of making a difference. And so she's amazing. And yeah, if you ever get a chance to listen to her speak, or if you're at convention, do not miss her. Do not miss the Young Living Foundation night. She has a huge heart, and you'll just be blown away.
You can follow Nikki on Facebook too. I don't think she can have friends anymore, but you can follow her to see.
Yeah, she's maxed out her friends.
I think I got her before she got maxed out.
She's got like 5,000 friends or something. I think they max you. Facebook maxes you out. She's hit that. So yeah, but she's really an amazing lady. So that night we had another performance back at Soul Hope Compound. This group of kiddos does performing, and they earn money that way and play drums, and they do skits and talk about God a lot and Jesus, and it was really, really cool. And then the next day we spent some time painting beds for Soul Hope's new outreach center. So keep an eye out for that. This was they're moving into a new building for their outreach center. So the outreach building is for really, really bad cases of jiggers. So the people can come in, they actually stay there, and they get medical treatment, they get food, they get education. So that is something that Young Living is really helping out with, is that outreach center. So look for more stuff on that. I'll just throw that out there. Young Living Foundation will be funding some things coming up for this outreach center. So spent a lot of time there, just, you know, that's what needed to be done. So we did it. We put our backs into it for sure on this one. Lots of bending over. And we did get a little reprieve that night. We headed down to Lake Victoria, and this was one of the this is typical shop. A lot of people have just these little stands with fruits and vegetables for sale, or fish, but this is someone's house back here with their clothes hanging in the background there. The yellow jugs that you see, that's how they carry water. They have to go to a well and pump their water and carry it. They don't have running water pretty much anywhere. Some of the businesses in town will have running water, but most of the homes do not. But that is a typical way to make money there, just having a little fruit stand. So these are homes right on the water.
Would they have one of those, like a squatty potty in a home, or do they have to go somewhere?
They usually have like a separate squatty potty, like an area, like an outhouse. Like if you've ever been to an outhouse, they have that kind of a setup where they've got something that's a little bit separate.
I wouldn't imagine they'd have them each.
No, there's none in the homes. Yeah, so this is homes right on the water. So fishing is a huge on Lake Victoria. So between Kenya and Uganda, there's a lot of fishing that goes on Lake Victoria. You see all the boats, and actually they're getting their water out of the river or the lake there that they're going to use for, I don't know, anything, washing dishes, washing clothes. I don't know if they drink this water. I did not ask. I don't know if I really wanted to know. Maybe they boil it and drink it. I'm not really sure. Although I do know that I think they get used to certain things, just like they would probably be sick off of our water, just like we would be sick off their water. It goes both ways. Your body's just used to certain things. And that is me with my hand in the Nile. So Lake Victoria feeds into the Nile. So I couldn't resist. I had to get my hands in the water. So the Nile's really cool. The water bubbles up from underneath like this fountain, and the water is bubbling like it's boiling. It's not hot, but it looks like it's boiling. It's really cool. And this is our group out on our Lake Victoria / Nile tour. This is sugarcane. That's one of their sources of income. If you own any land, you're probably going to grow sugarcane. They eat the stalks, like they chew on them as a food source. And then they also, it goes to actual sugar that you would use for baking. And these are typical village like huts. You can see it's just made of, actually it's made of mud and cow manure. Yeah, that's basically, these will last somewhere between 20 and 30 years, actually. It's pretty amazing for something that's mud, that it wouldn't wash away in rainy season, but they seem to hold up pretty well. So this was our day with Healing Faith. You can see there on the left, that's Jason. Him and his wife, Carrie, have founded the Healing Faith Uganda. And what they do is they go out and they do education. And this is another partner organization that Kelly talked about earlier, that Young Living helps with the mosquito net. So $5 for a mosquito net. And we learned that while we were there were 3 to 6 children who sleep under a net. So you can actually have more than the 12,000. So how many kids were, affected by this is amazing. They were hanging 400 in a month before. And when Young Living stepped in, now it's 4,000. That's just crazy to think of.
And even if you just round up your order, let's say you're giving 30 cents a month.
Yeah.
By the time your year's up, you're
right. You've paid
how
for
many
a net.
kids? Yeah.
And how many kids you're helping. So I just, I really loved this organization, not only for the fact that they're going out and they're providing a service to the community, they're also providing education, which I realized was really important when we were there. There was this little baby, probably, I don't know, maybe 14 months, 15 months, somewhere around there, who was really, really sick. And we're like, what is wrong with her? And they're like, she has malaria. And we're like, oh my gosh. And they're like, it's okay. She's got her medicine. What they do before they even come and hang the mosquito nets, like days before, they will go to the village and they will do all of the education. They'll be like, okay, these are the signs and symptoms of malaria. This is what you need to watch for. This is how your mosquito net needs to be hanging, because they would hang them wrong. They have to touch the floor because that's where most of the kids sleep. They sleep on the floor. So they need all of the bottom of the mosquito net needs to be touching the floor. So they were getting the education, and I believed with my whole heart that baby was saved because of their doing the education. They maybe would have not known that little girl had malaria, but the education that they're providing is really saving lives. So, and they're also really connecting with the communities there. They're not just, here's your mosquito net, they're really empowering them with education. So that was really, really amazing. Here we are with our mosquito nets, and that day we hung almost 200 mosquito nets. So they went from 400 in a whole month, and here we are doing almost 200 in one day. So it was really cool. That was the first mosquito net I hung there with Jason. And we used some purification and water when we sprayed around the windows and the doors of the homes where we were hanging the nets. I'll leave it at that. And this is the last organization that we visited, which is not yet a partner, but I kind of have a feeling that we may be partnering with them. I'm not really sure. But this is Wind of Victory. So Jesus' Wind of Victory is the name of this organization. And it is an orphanage for children of all ages. It really is Jesus's. Julius is the name of the guy that started this organization. And he was an orphan himself, kind of similar to Lutaya's story. And he just has a heart to, help kids and empower them and give them an education. I don't have a lot of pictures of this one, but I had to try to shorten it down because I know I'm rambling on, and we've been on here for over an hour. So anyway, we did some, with the older girls, the teenage girls, we washed feet. We washed their feet. They washed our feet just as a sign of, gratefulness and thankfulness for each other. And they're really, like, my shirt says empower on it there. You can't see it, but they really are empowering these people with courage and strength and love for Jesus there at that organization. So I just wanted to do a shout out to them as well, and Julius and his heart. And this is our group when we all had to say goodbye. Some of us stuck around for a little bit longer. We were offered, we could stay on our own dime to go on a safari. So about half of us did. So there's 8 of us that stayed for safari, and everybody else headed back home that night. But that's our group. This is Miss Jessica, and I have to put a shout out. She's going to be coming to Vibrant Health and speaking with me.
At Vibrant I didn't know who that was.
Yeah, so this is Jessica. She's actually Jessica Gianaloni, and she's the one who introduced Young Living Foundation to these organizations in Africa. So she's been working with these organizations on doing her own mission trips over the last 5 years. So she's become, they're her second family over there, and it was really cool to see the two come together. So her Africa family and her Young Living family are all meshed together now. So it's basically her that was able to connect the two companies or organizations together. She lives in Louisiana.
Oh, okay.
She's the one. We're going to talk about her in just a minute as well. So this is Jessica, and then this is Nikki Davis, of course, and she's the one who inspired me to apply to go on this trip, and she just is very inspiring. And has a huge heart. So I had to be sure, and I threw those pictures in there. Sleep, yes, you sleep under a mosquito net when you do sleep. We had very little sleep. So on our safari day, we stopped at the equator. Wow. So there I am with my foot, one on north and one on south.
That's awesome.
So that was pretty cool. I was on both hemispheres at the same time, which was really cool. It was a quick stop, but I can say I was on the equator. Yeah. And this was at safari when we were out looking at all the animals in their natural habitat. This is a national park that we were at, and so all the animals they roam freely in their own environment. So we saw lots and lots of zebras, these steer, I guess. I'm not really sure. They had another name for them, but I can't remember. Warthogs. Don't see those every day. And this little monkey, we left the top of our van open, and he got in and stole our einkorn granola. So make sure you put your top down when you, if you ever go on safari, because the monkeys will get in and steal your einkorn
I really like
granola.
The einkorn granola. Who doesn't like the einkorn
It's so good. I'm like, oh, of course, you would love it. It's so good. And hippos are a lot bigger than you think they might be. So that was pretty cool to see the hippos. And there was another picture. And this looks like a bald eagle, but it's not. It's a different type of an eagle, but it's very large, like a bald eagle. And I thought, oh, that was kind of different. Kind of cool, similar to a bald eagle. And baboons. Saw several of those. And, oh, here's a nicer squatty potty.
Say that looks nice.
It's a flushable one. And it has spots for your feet. The little grids there for your feet. So, back to the baby orphanage, because we went from Jinja, which is about 3 hours from Kampala, back to Kampala from Jinja. So the baby home is in Kampala. And we had one last day to visit the babies and ride on the motor. We call these boda-bodas. They're motorcycles. You get 2 or 3 people on those. And that's their way of getting around. Motorcycles everywhere. More motorcycles than cars. This is my friend Hannah. And there I am on my trip on the plane back home for another 24-hour trip. It took about 26 hours to get there and 24 hours to get back travel time. So back to getting involved again. So these are the different ways that you can get involved. And I think I'm going to go one more screen because we've already talked about that, but there's just a reminder. So my friend Jessica, who is one of the oil sisters, they're in Louisiana, and in light of the recent flooding that they have had down in Louisiana. Jessica is from there, and she has quite a large team of Young Living members who have lost their homes, actually hundreds of her team members, and Young Living members in general. There's hundreds, maybe thousands, have lost their homes and everything in it. So we just want to, if you're really weighing, if this whole flood thing is weighing on your heart and you want to do something, this is a great way to do it, is to really give back to our Young Living family that's struggling down there. I do have a couple of ways that you can help. You can go on PayPal and do a donation. If that's the easiest way for you, any amount will help. If you want to do a $5 donation, or it doesn't matter, anything is going to be very helpful. And this is going to go directly to Jessica. And when you go to PayPal, you can put in her email, and her email is rjgiane@gmail.com. And what you can do is put in send to friends and family, I believe, and that way they won't take a charge out of your donation. So you do a PayPal donation to her. You can also send it to, she'll end up getting this, ship any donations to them of, if you have Thieves Cleaner, or if you want to place an order and send it directly to them, they will get it that way.
For those of you guys who don't know, you can actually split your Essential Rewards order, so you can have a second shipment. You can
ship part of it.
Put that out separate and have it shipped, so you can get points for it.
Yeah, so that's a really easy way to do it, is to just place it on your Essential Rewards and split your where you want it shipped to. They need,
or you could even use your points.
Or you could use your Essential Rewards points
and have something shipped. That'd be
and
awesome too.
ship it that way. Perfect. Either way, Thieves Clean, any of the Thieves, basically, any of the Thieves products, they really need that for cleanup. Hand soap, wipes, cleaner, spray, hand purifier, diffusers, any kind of diffusers, essential oils. If you have a stockpile and you just want to send some essential oils or place an order. Thieves Purification Tea Tree, Lemon, Lavender, and Joy are all very, very helpful. You can ship them to Flooding LA, which is for Louisiana, with Hope. So Flooding LA with Hope. And the address will be 1404 Highway 22 West in Madisonville, Louisiana, 70447. So that way that way you know exactly where your product or your donation is going to. Jessica is her home was not affected, so she's kind of the one of the hubs for everything to go to. So, and then she's distributing them out to the different members.
Kind of like making her house like the hub, and making some Thieves Cleaner and stuff. We just saw a post right before here too that they did add a drop down on the Young Living Foundation. So now you can, if you don't remember all of that, you can just go straight to there and know that your money is going. It's not getting lost in politics or banks or anything like that. It's going straight to the ground.
So you can go directly to the Young Living Foundation website,
which is, I just looked it up because I wanted to make sure I gave it to you.
.org.
Yep. And if you just Google Young Living Foundation, you'll find it as well too.
So there will be a drop down where you can choose the organization that you want that you want your funds to go directly to. Like you could choose Healing Faith, or you could choose African Hearts, or you could choose My Austral Orphanage. You can choose where you want it to go, and so they've added that Louisiana flooding on there as an option to donate to. So, Young Living is really changing, not only all over the world. So Africa was just a little chunk. We've got all over the world and here in the United States. So I was really, they're reaching out to our own communities as well. So I really applaud the foundation for really lifting up our own communities as well. as around the world. So we really are making a difference all over the world. So
thanks everybody for donating.
Thank you so much.
All right, we're just going to put this as our contact information if you need to get in touch with Sarah or myself. And I just want to thank you guys for watching. Thank you so much, Sarah.
Thanks for having
sharing.
me. Sorry I mumbled on so long.
Oh my gosh, I'm sure we could probably talk for 8 hours about it. So anyway, we're going to go ahead and end the recording. This will be online so you can share it with anybody else that needs to know about this. And like I said, I learned about Young Living backwards. I learned about the products, and then I found out about the mission, and I just can't even imagine if I knew about the mission first, the impact I could have made. So, all right, we're going to go ahead and end the recording, and then we will be here for questions. Just a second. All right, and we can. Katie, you still there? Just a second, I'll unmute you. All right, we can see you now.
Hi.
We're not recording anymore.
Okay, good.
Yeah, so we're just Skyping.
Okay.
Yeah, basically.
I've never done that. Yeah.
So thanks for joining us tonight. I'm glad you're here.
Of course.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing it.
I was gonna say, did you learn some new stuff that you can share?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and Katie, I'm gonna post this on my YouTube channel, so you can just share the link too if there's anybody that needs to hear it or wants to learn more about it too. So
Okay. I can do that.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, lady. Any questions before we go?
Nope, I'm good.
All right. Have a good night.
Good night,
you
guys.
can't see us. Sorry. Bye.
That's all
I don't know why my video is not working. Probably because I stopped. But all right, we're gonna end.
See you, lady.
Bye.
Bye.